Hi, Gail Fugit, President and CEO of the Advertising Research Foundation, and it's a thrill to be here with Joel Lunenfeld, who is the head of global strategy, advertising strategy at Twitter.
Absolutely. Yes.
And love Twitter, and you've got your insignified here.
This tweets when you tap it.
It does?
Yeah. It would be nice though. Maybe next year at CES.
All right, so that was good. That's a good start. So my first question to you is, you majored in cultural anthropology, and so you are truly an insights person, understanding kind of why people do what they do. And my question is, how did you get from cultural anthropology to CES in 2016? What was the path?
It's been about a 16-year path, maybe 17-year path. So I studied cultural anthropology in school. I've always been fascinated by culture.
What drew you to that? That was a little early for that.
Yeah, it was definitely early. It was before we had any digital way of tracking it. It was literally symbols and culture and different memes and how things spread from villages to towns to cities. I just found it fascinating. And I also had a good friend that was working at the Buffalo Sabres, and I got a marketing internship with a sports company. And what I found was I could be creative in that job. And for me, the biggest thing in the world is idea to completion. You have a concept and it comes to life. And that kind of pulled me into advertising. And then I like to say that I've never studied advertising. I think that's been my advantage in the industry, because it's really about studying people. Mm-hmm. And if you just look at the path over the last 15, 16 years, we have more tools to measure what people respond to, how they react, how trends move, how memes are created than ever before. In fact, there's an example from today that actually it's going on right now.
Yeah, I want to hear.
If you go on Periscope and you search for the puddle, there's been a puddle in London that is enormous. There's lots of rain there, as usual, but there's a puddle that developed that people started periscoping, and it became this interesting cultural movement. People showed up with surfboards and paddle boats, and 20,000 people were simultaneously viewing this.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, there were more people simultaneously viewing this than an episode of The Kardashians.
Wow.
And this was all live in Periscope and in the moment. So just the rate that culture moves today, I would never have guessed it, 15, 16 years ago.
You really sense that the rate has changed.
Oh, we've kicked into a higher gear. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely,
yeah. Was technology the inflection point for that?
Yeah.
I think that was the catalyst or the fuel?
Yeah, it's
accelerant maybe is.
Well, it's funny because before anthropology, my major was engineering.
Got it. Oh, that
I got into school for engineering.
Perfect sense.
Decided I did not want to sit in front of a screen
all day. You are art and science right here in one package.
Now I'm in front of a screen constantly, so that plan didn't work out. But
but you're working on storytelling, following the consumer.
Exactly.
So it makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
Totally. And technology has and will continue to enable storytelling and culture in ways that we haven't seen, right? So the mobile era that everyone was waiting for. I remember for years having, this is the year of mobile. Okay, this is the year of mobile. And I think it snuck up on us.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Someone said that yesterday. It was like the last 3 years I've said this is the year of mobile, and every year,
And now it's disappeared, and it's literally, I think it's the year of culture. And the way we think about Twitter is it's a live connection to culture. Mm-hmm. And for brands and for people, it's your live connection to what's happening right now. And that's why I don't think Twitter could be any better suited for what I've been passionate about my whole life.
Mm-hmm. So how does advertising work today?
Yeah.
You're leading advertising at, arguably one of the world's largest social connectors, platforms, networks.
Yeah,
What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think there's a few ways to answer that. I think if you look at the typical McKinsey purchase funnel, it looks more like a Jackson Pollock painting today. You can go from seeing something that literally someone just shared in their feed to buying it instantly. So you didn't really have to go research or go through all the various steps. And you could also be an advocate for something you never purchased. So especially around CES now, you see people tweeting out drones and sharing on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat all these items that maybe they want, and people that never even used it, they become an advocate for it. So there's a very kind of interesting mix to trying to get people to be part of your kind of influence for a product, and then also, if it's not working, that's when you start to hear about it. So I think the one kind of through line through all of this is truth. And for the first time, we've got almost antibodies. If something negative happens about a brand or something negative happens about a product, the truth will rise to the top. And because consumer antibodies will fight it until it rises to the top. So I think if you look at your marketing mix today, you have to really look at it as, how do I find those people that are really representative of my brand and what I want? What's my story to tell? Because people want story. Even in toothbrushes, people want to know what's the story behind that brand. So get your story, understand the right channels to tell it, and then make sure that you take the path to purchase and make it frictionless, and that every opportunity to share is something that you're designing into your product. So a good example would be, have you heard of Blue Apron? Have you ever used that?
I haven't used it.
So I like to cook, but I never have time to go to the store and get the ingredients. This is a product that launched last year, and Blue Apron literally will send you a full ingredient list and instructions to cook something that's pretty gourmet.
Yeah.
If you look on Twitter, all you'll see is pictures of people that are proud of a meal that they just cooked.
Yeah.
And that's their marketing.
Yeah.
And it's designed into their product.
Yeah, so I worked for General Mills for 32 years, and it was always absolutely fascinating, the need and the gratification, which is more in your cultural anthropology background, to share pictures of their parties.
Yes. And that's never changed. Our grandparents wanted to share what they were seeing. It used to be in a slideshow in your house, and now it's on Twitter, Instagram, etc.
Yeah, we're doing slideshows of our family photographs right now, and or video feeds, and it's a lot of pictures of tables of food, actually.
Yes, food is a very important topic to people. Yeah, clearly. When we look on Twitter at we can even look at 2016, and we can already predict the Olympics, for example. There's more conversation on an average day today about the Olympics than there was about the entirety of the Olympics last time it happened on Twitter. That's how much more people are.
Why do you think that is?
I think one is just the growth of social in general and people that are being connected. I think two is the lead up to an event is as exciting as the event itself. We love anticipation as humans, and we don't get enough of it in our lives. That's why people love serial shows that you can't know what happens until next week. Well, we've got all these stories that brands are telling and Olympians are telling and Rio's telling, and that's intriguing, and people are kind of getting hooked into that. And then there's the moment, which is like a lightning strike when it happens. And then there's solar energy, which is the rest of the conversation every day about that.
Interesting. So talk about, I was really intrigued by, this shift in the paradigm of how advertising works that you all are leading with Vine and Niche. Speak a little bit about that and the, how that catalyzes. It's just very different than the traditional way of thinking about targeted advertising. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we look back a few years at the rise of YouTube and the YouTube star, it was pretty apparent after a pretty short time that there's a new generation of stars forming, right? These are those that have a more kind of intimate connection to their fans. It feels much more personal. It's much more serialized. It's much more live. Vine came along, and I really think it changed the entire game of mobile video.
I think it did too.
Rather than having to create and edit,
it
just made it instant, right?
Yeah.
So then a whole slew of people arose on that platform that, they're vinographers or viners, people that are making, many figures today in that art form. And we acquired a company called Niche last year. They've got 20,000 of the top creators in the world, literally the world. So
how did they curate them?
So it's funny, anyone can sign up. So I can sign up, you can sign up. And what you get is analytics. You get to see your entire audience across 16 social platforms. So, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr. You can see all the analytics. Who are they? What are they doing? How are they sharing my content? So that was the first step. Give data that people don't see before. And then there's such a network where they start to recruit each other.
So it's like the concept of an open platform for consumers.
Yeah, exactly. And then what we found were brands were coming to us saying, I'd like to, HP, I'm launching a computer that's targeted towards college students. We've done TV. We'd like to do something that targets college students in the environment that they're in, like Vine and Twitter. So we then match them up with 3 of the biggest influencers that match that demographic, and they started creating.
It would take them years to locate that, precise, connected.
Yeah, to actually mash up who's the audience.
Thumbprint, right?
And think about media planning. It's always been, where are you going to run your media? Now it's who are you going to run your media with?
Exactly.
Like, who's the person that reaches the audience and represents you?
In my career, it was women 25 to 54. Right. A
Yeah.
nice small group.
Yes, yes. But, and today we've got, whether it's electronics or fashion, we can find the influencers that speak to women 25 to 54, and they can be like an authentic ambassador for a brand. So just like the days of having David Beckham as your kind of lead brand icon, now you can start to really get into niche audiences, hence the name niche, by working with these new creators. And I think that's a trend that is happening faster than marketers realize. And it's going to be one of those things like mobile, where we're just going to look and we're going to realize that, all of our kids actually find these people as the famous people, not the ones that we see on TV.
Yeah, I mean, there's some awareness of that now. I suspect that it will hit an inflection point when you start to study the competition and you're trying to figure out how they got all those sales. And you go back and deconstruct it and figure out, like, oh my goodness, right? They
That's
have
a
like
great point.
unlocked like
That's a
a
great point.
whole different way of
Yes.
targeting, and we're dead. Right?
Or we're alive because we
Or
figured
we're
it out
alive
for our
'cause,
brand.
but we're behind, right? And we got to figure out how
The
to
cool
do
thing
it.
is it's democratic and
Yeah.
it's open to everyone. And this new type of artist that's rising up, they understand the commercial need alongside their creativity, and they've been able to like meld it together in a beautiful way. And actually, like, one of the folks that was in the campaigns for HP, when he walks around, Robbie Ayala, he works at Twitter actually. When he walks around, people show him the laptop. Like, look, this is the laptop I got, and you were, like, there's a pride there.
Right. Yeah. Great. So, I mean, you've had a spectacular run, and you are in the thick of this amazing career. How about failure? Any failures along the way?
So I used to run an agency,
Okay.
and I was humbled and lost clients, and there's nothing like a failure like that, where you try your hardest, you try and run into a relationship that's mutually beneficial and exclusive, and sometimes it's out of your control. And those have been some of the biggest lessons, like losing clients. Why did that happen? How do I deal with that with my team now? What do I do next? And one of the reasons why I shifted from the agency side to the platform side is I felt like a lot of the lessons that we learned on the agency side I wanted to bring to Twitter early on, so we don't make the mistakes of ostracizing agencies and not collaborating and working with them, or not understanding like what's in the mind of a brand manager. So one of the biggest things that I've tried to bring over is empathy for a platform like Twitter.
So, as you dealt with failure, how did you, how much time did you allow yourself to, for me it would be obsess, but, to kind of
So I've got a much bigger
wallow
failure
in
story.
it, and then, yeah, okay.
Much bigger failure story. Advertising was something I was getting into, but music is my first passion.
Okay.
And I moved to Atlanta to become a musician. I had a handshake deal with someone that I thought was going to go somewhere, and within a month of moving there, it completely failed. And I was literally playing my guitar on the street corners and
Wow.
singing. And from there, I was like, well, I have this kind of fallback digital media thing going on, and that's when I decided to get serious about this career and really start applying and inventing and trying to find the right environment. So it was that failure that drove me completely into this career today. And you can YouTube.
Still involved in music?
Yeah, I definitely still play more for like my daughters to sing with me than professionally. But yeah, it's a big part of my life.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I was really inspired by is your commitment to nonprofit organizations, and you actually created one.
I did, yes. This
So
last year.
share that. I think it's really powerful, your story.
Thank you. Yeah, I joined the board of a nonprofit a few years ago called Hire Heroes, and they place veterans and their spouses in jobs. And just being around their CEO, Brian Stan, and that organization and seeing the good they do, I realized that there's something that we can all kind of give back. And growing up, my dad was a teacher, and he used to teach at-risk youth in New York. And I used to teach kids in camp and drama and music and things like that. And I just haven't done that in years. And I think having my daughters actually really woke something up in me. And it became a creative project and obsession. And I've been boxing for years too. It's something I love
it was
to
some martial arts, right?
Yeah. So this is about giving martial arts to kids that need it most. And what we found is the minute we thought of the idea, it had to happen. And just like any creative project that I've learned in my career in advertising, you just have to come up with the concept, the idea, and then keep daring yourself to do more and more. We got our nonprofit license. We launched in December, and we are currently fundraising and teaching kids in Oakland.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, it's something that I'm really passionate about, and it satisfies a whole other part of kind of what makes me tick.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd love to ask, what do you feel your biggest success has been this past year?
This past year.
2015. And I kind of like that better than resolutions. Or...
Yeah, my biggest success. I think my biggest success has been, achieving both through the nonprofit, through Twitter, and also at home. We have now a 1-year-old, so we had a
you
brand
do? Yes,
new baby
I was going to ask you about
on the
family, because you're like family first.
I feel like I've been able to really integrate everything, and this year I learned through necessity how to kind of integrate.
How did you do that?
It has to all make sense to me, and
it's really intuitive.
Yeah, it's got to just make. If it doesn't, they all tie together too in some interesting ways. So I think integrating different parts of your life together is something that I've been practicing and working on, and probably a year from now we'll have figured something else out and completely failed what I'm doing today. So
but you're undaunted.
Yeah, I'm excited by like life in general, but for me, learning to integrate it together is going to be like the lesson that I take with me. Family, work, nonprofit, I think they can all tie nicely together.
How old are your kids? How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old daughter.
Yes, you are in the thick of it.
And yes. Yeah, I just came from some great time with them over the last few weeks to CES. Yeah. So talk about
that's
a different world.
Yeah. Yes, in some ways.
Yes. I don't think I've heard any crying babies here yet, but maybe some crying people.
Yeah. Yeah. So what prediction do you have for 2016?
Yeah. So
what do you see on the horizon?
I think this is going to be the year that, we don't just say the word data, that it's actually integrated into the workflow of marketing operations. I see that firsthand with amazing companies like Unilever that are taking all of the data that Twitter can provide, all the human thought and feelings, and building into everything from product development to how they work with retailers, to how they respond to customers, to how they find what matters to motivate customers to buy. And we're seeing
great
that
example.
With huge, the Fortune 100s and the long tail of advertisers are starting to figure it out. I think we're throwing some interesting, emoji, for example. How do you measure the analytics around an emoji? Like, how many smiley faces versus pizzas do you get? That's going to be a challenge. But I think that integrating data into our workflow is something that we're going to start to see more and more of in 2016.
Yeah, well, your emojis resort based on how often you use them, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, it's already got at least a bit of a capability floating around in there.
I just have yet to have an analytics person come into me and say what does a ghost emoji mean for me? Is that positive or negative?
They've become so important. It's fascinating to me. Some people they're just almost addicted to them.
Yeah.
And they just send all these it's a couple of words and then it's just this string. Of,
you can say more
sentiments.
Actually. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can leave a lot more to the imagination and having to spell it out.
Yeah, I really like that. Well, Joel Lunenfeld, it's just been such a pleasure to speak with you. I
got
to first mention that thank you so much for sharing Jeffrey Graham and your team, Tim, and you have the most amazing team.
Thank you. I absolutely believe that. They're
Jeffrey's
incredible.
on our board, and he's expanded his organization, and he's just been so generous about all the things that he's done for the ARF, but also inviting us and myself personally to share our thinking, because this kind of collaborative exchange it's really important. We're not going to get there without it.
Yeah, I think that the spirit of collaboration is so important, because anyone that tells you they know it all, I wouldn't trust. And we really need to work together, everyone. So I really appreciate our partnership. Thank you.
Yeah, so this openness that you bring, I love the beginning, from being a cultural anthropologist and an engineer. I think that just makes perfect sense. And then you're, of course, an artist and a scientist now that I have this musician background. It's really inspirational both to hear your vision for how advertising works and what you're doing to bring that print to Twitter with some really practical examples, because I think it's easy to talk big ideas and big numbers and big data, but it's like, how do you pin it down into practical solutions? And the example you gave of Unilever is a really good one, and along with Vine and Niche and what you're doing there from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah, behind data is humans. Like we don't
Exactly.
forget, well, machines too, but
yes.
a lot of the insights are really just what people are saying and feeling, and that's incredible.
And then behind humans, or up on our shoulders, are our families.
Yes.
And so as you work through, which I think everyone at some level is, trying to figure out the math of balance, right? And
there's no such thing as daily balance.
Distributing yourself and where you need to be. I can see that you would be in high demand in every single one of those places. So thank you so very much.
I really appreciate it.
Congratulations on the nonprofit success.
Thank you very much.
That's really dazzling and inspirational.
It's Guardian, so
Guardian.
Guardian.org.
Guardian.org.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Awesome. Thank you.